I appreciate that I heard the news earlier about Clay Hanlon. There may be those of you here today who did not know Clay. I did. And he was one of the first people I met. When I came to Grand Junction in 1995, I remember it vividly. I came over to Grand Junction just to speak at a service from Boulder, and Clay was again one of the first people that was there to greet me. And I had no idea that I would end up going to Grand Junction to become the minister there at the time. But I do remember Clay being, and his wife, just being so warm and friendly and kind and enthusiastic about unity. I even have a picture of him here. Just so happens, may not be able to see this, but right there's Clay and me. Okay. Again, in 1999, right before I left, we had a gathering. Clay was one of the people there, and there he is with his hand on my shoulder. So I'm having a moment here, frankly, of just what it's like for all of us to say a final goodbye to someone we've known and appreciated and loved, and someone we know who truly cared for us. And Clay was one of those who truly cared for me, cared about me. So we're here today in some way, and whatever I have to share is in light of really wanting to shine this lamp of truth and beauty on him as he moves forward into his next experience of living. Yeah, wow. Something I think was in your email this week, that something I was asked to write called a blurb. I'm not even sure what a blurb is. What is that? A blurb? Yes. And this is what I sent, and here are the words. In today's world, we are being called to light the inner lamp of truth and inspire the manifestation of a higher octave in order to fully realize the oneness of love, creator, and creation. I, I'm not sure in your service that you say this, maybe you say some form of it, I don't know. But it's something that I first heard when I first experienced a unity service in 1981. Goes like this, and this is how I heard it at the time. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life. God the good, omnipotent. For me, it was like a ringing bell. A ringing bell. And it's still like that for me every time I hear it. It's about alerting my soul and spirit to a universal truth. And this truth is one presence, one power continues to vibrate and ring true for me today. This truth is one of the primary reasons I continued to come to unity, and it's one of the primary reasons that I am with you here today. It's like a ground of being for me. The reason, and it's in some way the reason you and I have taken birth. It's the reason why we are here in this dimension, on this planet, because it is our divine destiny that we embody this truth. that there is only one presence and one power, one reality, one energy, one expression of truth, beauty, harmony, and one unconditional loving presence. And here it is. Here it is in you and in me and in this world. Now, this is, of course, counter to the manifestations of what I'm going to describe as the manifestations of separation and division, which are in this world. So those like us and our ancestors, our descendants yet to come, are all being called to resolve this separation, division, and misunderstanding. Are you with me? This is an endless invitation to partake in this oneness of creator and creation, this unbreakable, everlasting bond. Today, in some way, what we're here to do and experience is to light the inner lamp of truth in you. In other words, another way of understanding this is to start vibrating in a higher octave. And I would describe this ongoing, endless invitation in our lives as a soul initiation. Now, the widespread point of view is as we know, is the belief in proliferation of this set belief and separation between our source and all manifestations of creation. Let's be really clear here. This is not what we teach in Unity. This is not the truth of this reality in which we find ourselves. So the calling for each one of us is to bring an end to this belief and manifestation of separation, to embody this unifying truth that there is only one presence. Not only does this truth, with a capital T, establish a remembrance about the inseparability of the human and the divine within each one of us, it also establishes the inseparability of you and me. I'm 1,400 miles away in Eugene, Oregon. I am still here knowing that there is this inseparable reality that connects you with me. And also, it is this very personal, embodied manifestation of this inner unity, which provides wisdom and strength and love, which are necessary for being in this world, but not overtaken by all the beliefs and expressions of separation and division and the resulting, let's call it what it is, separation and division in all its manifestations and forms creates insanity. This describes, again, what I'm talking about describes living in a higher octave, a much more refined way of being attuned in this world. I'm grateful that it has been mentioned we're in the Advent season, and in some way, Advent is a time in which we can once again remember what is being asked of us and what we're being called to express and experience which is this higher octave that this week takes the form of peace. Once again, we're here to remember peace. In other words, peace comes through this inner unity. This inner unity. In other words, creating inner stillness and silence. In other words, empowering and embodying this rebirthing of a new creation in you, through you, as you, amidst, again, all the endless chaos and distractions. There's this passage in the New Testament in Luke chapter 18, verses 16 through 18. And it's typically described, the story is described as the lamp under a jar. Now, we all know back in those days, 2,000 years ago, that a lamp would have been some form of a flame. You put a jar over it, what's going to happen? It's going to snuff it out. So I want you to listen to these words coming from Yeshua at that time. No one, after lighting a lamp, hides it under a jar or puts it under a bed or puts it on a lampstand so that all those who enter may see the light. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, nor is anything secret that will not become known and come to light. Then pay attention. He goes on to say, pay attention to how you listen. How you listen. For to those who have, more will be given. And from those who do not have, even what you seem to have will be taken away. Wow. Okay. In other words, in order to be able to see when experiencing darkness, it's universal. Universal and essential that, we'll use his metaphor, that a lamp is lit and put in an ideal place in that space which was formerly dark. Makes sense? Sure. So that not just you alone can see, but also so that everyone, all who enter can see, everybody, implying we come into this living world, not only for ourselves, but we are called to be in support of all others who enter our lives. Are you with me? What is there in this space to see that he's describing? What is there to see for those who enter? Well, everything. Everything. Everything because of this presence of light. The light within you, the light within each and every one of you that reveals to you the truths which previously in the overwhelming, distracting darkness, and we can relate to this in the current day, this overwhelming, distracting darkness of human experience and misunderstanding. You know, the truth and this light of truth can be very difficult to access and understand. It's kind of life's so-called secrets. This is ageless wisdom. In other words, how to fully be in this world. How many times have you heard it? And it's been said recently, especially, how to fully be in this world, but not overtaken by the ways of the world. So we are here in unity, in a unity community to relearn and remember how to light your lamp of truth for each one of you here today. And this occurs for you, me, and everyone. This occurs when you pay greater attention. And this is what he went on to say, Yeshua. This occurs when you pay greater attention to how you listen. In other words, what inner state of attunement are you listening from? Not what are you listening to? There's a whole lot of listening going on, listening to things in the world. He's talking about what inner state of attunement here are you listening from? And this way of being and inner listening literally electrifies and lights you up, especially when you are anchored, as has already been mentioned here today and somewhere I heard it said, when you are anchored in the electromagnetism of the heart, which is a great power generator of creating a field of presence, which reveals a previously unseen and unknown treasure, which is yours to discover. And what is that I'm focusing on today? What is this unseen and unknown treasure? It's the same thing that I heard 44 years ago for the first time. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life. God the good, omnipotent. And the better, this is describing how to inwardly listen. The better you are able to inwardly listen in this way, with this focus and this presence, from this depth, from this frequency and light of understanding, the more insight you will receive, which reveals your path of igniting within you this one presence and one power. Yeshua says in another place, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Each of us, I know you've heard this, and it's how many times in this human experience, have we heard this? And I never tire of it, which is we're designed to embody this one presence and power. What I would call today human divinity. I'm not the first person to say that. Human divinity. And what is divinity? As a side note here. And I pulled this from Greg Braden. I was going to quote him here. What is divinity? He says it's the inherent essence and potential within every human being, which allows individuals to transcend perceived limitations. Aha. In other words, it is not an external force or religious dogma, divinity, but it is an internal essence in you that can be expressed through your capacity to respond to life with love, to live in harmony and activate your light and realize the full expression of your whole self, your human divinity. I'm just taking a moment here to sense, the full circle of all the years in unity that I've experienced, in which this has been said and repeated over and over and over again. And I'm really taken and moved and inspired, and I feel, the presence of the gift of having been around unity all these years. I'm feeling it right now. And this very straightforward teaching that I'm sharing with you today that has changed my life profoundly. And has brought people into my life like you and so many others who have helped me along the way. I think you know what I'm talking about. Um, and of course, all of what I've just shared with you is, for the most part, so very, very, very different from what we are often witnessing even in our own families, and especially in communities in our country, on our planet as a whole. How we all can breathe into this here. And, as a result of what is taking place in the larger scope of life, we routinely, I confess here, routinely we become too burdened, too fearful, too small-minded, too ego-driven and inwardly divided. And as a result, in our overall sense of well-being and body and soul suffer. And then I've seen this over and over again. I know you have too. We then project this inner state of suffering onto our world, both near and far, resulting in countless manifestations of either bending or breaking the golden rule. However, we are clearly strengthened and our faith and spirit lifted by our fellow divine humans of all kinds who've had the courage to contribute to mending what has become broken within us and in our world. Just take a moment here in your own life to remember and connect with all those fellow divine humans who have helped you along your way. Many of whom, for me, are right there in Grand Junction. This is living from a higher octave, joining together with this intention to remember that there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in our communities and in our lives. Okay. Most of us here have been on a very long pilgrimage, right? This pilgrimage of trying to reconcile these polarities in life, like shadow and light, despair and hope, illusion and truth, tradition and revolution, fear and love. In unity, we're called, all of us are called to stand for interconnectedness, interrelationship, interdependence. This is sort of a declaration of interdependence I'm sharing with you today. We rely on one another to stay awake and remember what the heart knows. There's one presence, divine, that is entirely intertwined in this reality, in all of its aspects, uniquely expressed by each one of us. So together, let's end this illusion of separation. It's been called the golden key, this notion and this teaching of the one presence and one power. That's it. Just to know this, live this, breathe this, share this, embody this. And I'm here today to give thanks for this truth in my life and in our world that truly ends the illusion of separation so that we can truly experience living from this higher octave, which embodies this devotion to unconditional love and ageless wisdom. We're all so fortunate that life has brought us to unity. Not only a unity community, but the teachings and truths that unity provides. Gosh, thank you for being a part of that in my life. I'm so grateful to be here with you today.